podcast. Yeah.
We're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, it's good. Wow. This is the ReveLAtions podcast. I'm GM.
Podcast.
A ReveLAtions podcast.
And I'm Snotty. And today we have a very special guest.
I'm really excited because all the way from Australia, international film
Down under.
television actress Jessica Green. And I think it's cool because, you know, obviously one of the main points of this podcast is to encourage people to keep chasing their dreams. Because dreaming in life, in humanity, all the greatest things in the world have come from a dream, right? And so I know a lot of the listeners that are probably in some little town somewhere, you know, and they're going to tune into this. And, well, you're going to have a really great revelation story today because Jessica came all the way from a very remote part of Australia.
Devonport, Tasmania.
There you go.
Are you the Tasmanian devil?
Maybe.
I know,
Maybe.
just a little bit.
Just
Right?
We could
dash
say
of it.
Tasmanian angel.
Tasmanian angel.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The
Yeah.
one's holding up the halo.
Right. But yeah, you know, it's, you know, so these people listening, you know, your story is so great because you came from a very remote part of Australia, chased a dream of acting and all that to Los Angeles. And now you've ended up in this film that looks like it's going to be one of the biggest films of the year with Oscar-winning actors, Oscar-winning directors. So this is going to be a good revelation story, and we'll get to all that in a minute. But let's start with Tasmania because, you know, that's such an exotic thing to come from someplace like that. And I know it's for a lot of people that don't know, it's an island state. So it's not part of the main.
It's that little triangle right at the bottom of Australia.
Right. And apparently there's not a big population on it
No.
for such a large landmass or as an island. Right?
No, there really isn't. I don't know the exact number, but especially where I'm from this little town up the top called Devonport. And I haven't been back for a few years, but I went back, it was probably like 5 years ago, and I can't really remember much of it because obviously I think I was about 5 or 6 when I moved up to the Gold Coast.
Okay.
But yeah, my mum and dad were showing me around the town, and I was like, "What did you guys do for your like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing going on
yeah.
here, right?
What's the culture like there? What's it?
I mean, everyone knows everyone. It's very like, it's. I know the people are wonderful though, like really, really wonderful. I love going down to visit when we do. We go to Anson's Bay, which is this little beautiful spot down near. It's called the Bay of Fires and Wineglass Bay, which are two of the most beautiful beaches in the whole world.
Yeah, I've heard that.
If you haven't heard of
that
them.
Tasmania has become quite the destination for ecotourism because of the sort of pristine environment that is still preserved.
It's honestly, it's so beautiful there. So definitely put it on your bucket list to go travel. But we go down there with my family and we stay in this shack and we go out and take the boat and go fishing and I love it. And
What do your parents do? Like, what did they do as you were growing up?
my mom's a domesticated goddess.
Okay.
I like it.
Oh no, she calls herself domesticated engineer.
Okay, we like it.
She does everything. Honestly, she's a saint, that woman.
Strong feminine energy.
Oh,
That's great.
did everything for me and my brother, honestly.
There's no shame in that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, both of us had things on every day after school. She was a super mum. Really.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you think about it, those are that is one of the most important jobs in the entire world.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know, honestly. And, you know, historically, people look at it like, oh, you know, don't get a lot of credit, right? But
honestly,
they deserve all the credit for that. Yeah,
she gave us all her time, and I owe her the world, honestly. And she managed me when I started working, because I started modeling and everything when I was about 15 or 16.
Oh, wow.
And then obviously when the Instagram kind of world started to take off, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't want to deal with.
Yeah, it wasn't
any
your
of that.
vibe.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
So she handled all that for me, and
Wow,
she
that's
honestly,
cool.
Yeah, she's
a little bit of stage
Yes,
mom in her, just a little bit.
No, I guess a dash, but she really isn't.
Yeah,
She's wonderful.
I mean, not in the
her
sense that
everything.
she was pushing you towards anything, but
Hopefully she didn't get weird DMs.
No, oh, she gets, yeah.
She
no,
screens them for you.
Over the years, she definitely has. So that's what mum does. But dad he has his own building company, which my brother works for as well.
cool.
So yeah, that's what they do.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because sometimes when you come from these humble beginnings, people wonder, like, what sparked you to want to be the actress, or was it basically through the modeling that happened? Like somebody spotted you, or how did that come about?
Honestly, I was so lucky. I was an extra maybe when I was like 6 on Peter Pan. I remember it. I got to sit behind Wendy.
Oh,
So
wow.
you see the back of my head.
Ooh,
for
that's
a
pretty
second.
cool.
But yeah, I think I did an acting course when I was super young, but didn't really, chase it or anything. I wanted to be a vet. So when I was at school, I did a year of vet nursing. And I'm lucky I did because I found out that's not what I want to be.
Right.
Love animals, but
Absolutely love animals, but it's a hard job, and
oh yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. I thought, I'd get to go to work every day
you
and
were
play
young
with
and
them
idealistic,
and, like,
so
I get to be with them all the time, but no, you just see them when they're sick, and because obviously that's why people bring them to the vet.
Right,
They
that's
don't bring them
true.
to the vet 'cause
I
they're
didn't think
happy.
about that
That's
part of it.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, because I love all the healthy animals, and somebody
know,
needs to
yeah.
take care of them when they're sick. But that's pretty intense.
But yeah, so I was very lucky I did that because that was what I always wanted to be. And I find people sometimes find that out when it's a bit too late, when they've done 6 to 8 years of study, and then
Right.
they go and start doing it, and they're like, oh wow, this is not what I wanted to do. But
It's
then-
interesting that the acting class wasn't, because we just had Jason Lewis on recently, and he became this internationally famous, one of the biggest supermodels in the history of the business. It was never his dream to be a model. So it sounds like, in a certain way, that's kind of your story too. It was never your real dream or focus to be an actress necessarily.
and no one did it from
Right.
where I'm from.
Right.
It's getting a lot more popular now on the Gold Coast because we have the studios there. There's a big Warner Brothers studio.
Yeah, they're shooting a lot of big pictures there now.
And now it's becoming more like possible.
Right.
Where it was kind of just out of arm's reach,
Yeah.
When you grow up on the Gold Coast.
Here's
and-
Hollywood, and you guys are down under.
Yeah, and no one does it, or
Yeah.
it's not even an option really.
Right.
But I was insanely lucky. I was modeling, and my modeling agent sent me for this role that apparently they've been casting all over Australia. They went through all the acting agencies and hadn't found the person they were looking for, so they started going through modeling ones. And I got this audition, and I kind of was like, why am I getting this? I don't know how to act.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I was very naughty. I learnt my lines up in the car to
How
the
funny.
auditions. And I thought I bombed. Like, I thought I did a horrible job, but they must have seen something in me that they liked. And
that was
They-
was that first little TV series that you got? What was it called?
Lightning
Surf
Point.
Girls
Oh,
or
Alien Surf Girls over here. But it's called Lightning Point
Lightning Point?
everywhere
Alien
else in the
Surf
world.
Girls?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta check that
That
out.
pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of a little Dawson's Creek in the outback or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, well,
No, except you were aliens. No, it's not really Dawson's
have you
Creek.
guys seen H2O Just Add Water, the mermaid show?
No.
Oh, it's huge. Like, that's what Phoebe Tompkin and everyone
Oh, okay.
got. That's where they started. But it's same production company, and it's filmed for Germany. But Germany just wants everything at the beach, so that's why there was the mermaid show, and then
Right.
there was the surfing aliens. But yeah, I was so lucky. So I did that audition, and they saw something in me, and so they got a coach to fly up from Melbourne who coached with me for like 4 hours a day for 2 weeks over this casting period. And I would submit auditions at the end of each week, and then we did the chemistry test at the end, and I somehow fluked it and booked
That's
a job.
awesome.
And then we
It's so
filmed on
good.
that for like 8 months. I had to leave school. And I feel like that's where I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best job in the world. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because my character, Kiki, she was a really good horse rider and a really good surfer. And I'd grown up surfing, being on the Gold Coast.
Of course.
So I could do that a bit, but I'd never horse rode before. And I obviously love animals, so I was super excited to do that. And then I got to train for like 2 hours every morning, horse riding.
Wow.
And then when we were filming all our surfing scenes, like we would get towed out on jet skis and we spent like 2 weeks just catching waves.
That's so
just
fun
to get footage.
because
And I was like, what is this life? Like all my friends are at school, they're working at Macca's or McDonald's.
yeah, and that's actually a really special thing too, because most people that go into the acting business, they've kind of had to do their homework, if you will, prior to having been in acting classes or been in plays or, so to get that on the job training where somebody invests in you like that is pretty special. That's pretty amazing.
Especially looking back now and knowing how hard this industry is and that opportunities like that just
Yeah, they're very rare.
never happen.
Yeah,
It's so
they're very
rare.
rare. They like people showing up with already ready to go.
It sounds like you have a lot of natural talent, which is cool.
Oh, I don't know.
So
I
that's
look back on that show.
That's something to start
Actually,
with.
I watched some of the scenes.
Oh, gosh.
I will say this, and you were actually really good on that show.
Yeah.
You look like you're
I
10 years
disagree.
old on the show, first of all, but you were not. You didn't look like some fish out of water who didn't know how to act. You were carrying your own. Let's put it that
Thank
way.
you so much. I have a lot to learn though. And I was definitely thrown in the deep end because everyone else
Pun
on
intended.
in that cast, yeah. Everyone else in that cast had studied at NIDA, which is Australia's pristine acting school.
Right.
And, like been on shows before,
Right.
and
And that's what I'm speaking to. Like most people have had that background before they get that opportunity that you got.
And then there was me, the random chick
The newbie.
who
Well, that's
didn't know
good.
what she was doing. But
Yeah.
that show taught me a lot, and that's where I grew like my passion for it. And
It's so funny because Snotty just hit on something that I had in my note, and it says she's a natural, because I feel like it's a lot of how this has come about for you, because there is a little bit of that natural actress in you somewhere.
you.
You're getting
So hopefully just like
yeah.
a dash of it.
Yeah, no. I mean, like you said, they've been looking everywhere. All of a sudden they're looking at modeling agencies, and then you come along. So they must have really seen that natural actress in you to want to invest like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I honestly,
And then obviously you got
was
an
very
agent
lucky.
after that and started
well, that was
taking
the
it
thing.
more seriously.
I had no idea about the industry. I didn't have an agent.
Oh, wow.
So towards the end of that show, I was poached by a big Australian one, and then I started, obviously learning about the industry, and then I learned everything on set, which then when I finished and I had to start auditioning, and going in the room and submitting self-tapes, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yes, it is.
That's
Audition
a skill in
technique is
itself.
different than just on-the-job training, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I got an audition for Fast and the Furious once, and it was the scene where the girl is on the bonnet of the car as it drives off a cliff, and I was like,
How do you do that? Right.
how am
yeah.
I supposed to do that?
Right.
Like standing against a white wall, like
Yeah.
it was impossible.
With some
But
casting assistant with a camera going, okay, pretend like you're,
I know.
It's intense. It is. Yeah.
So that was a big learning curve for me. Because I didn't know how to do it. And so then I started like going back to class. And
then it became kind of the dream that you wanted to chase too at that point, it sounds like.
but I feel like
Yeah.
I wasn't as far ahead as I wanted to be.
Okay.
And I wasn't as good as I wanted to be,
Right.
Especially in those auditions. And then I found out, that I feel like that agency signed me because it was going to be an easy commission check if we went for a season 2.
Oh, I see.
Because I was a very, very, very small fish in that pond, and they didn't really give me the time of day to like learn or give me advice or anything. So I was submitting these self-tapes, which like I didn't know what I was doing. I was still only 18 years old, 17, 18.
Right.
And again, didn't know anyone else really apart from my 5 cast members that was, you know, pursuing it.
That were in the industry, per se.
And they lived in different parts of Australia. And yeah, I was paying like $130 every self-tape to go and film it with this person and submit it. And I found out that my agents weren't even sending them. Like I would call up and be like, is there any feedback? Like can you give me any advice, any notes? Like, am I doing the right thing? And they would reply to me like in a week's time. And they were like, oh yeah, no, we didn't send that. We didn't think it was good enough.
You know, that's
spending all this money.
Man.
I know.
From a business standpoint, from an industry standpoint, that's one of the problems with getting with a big agent. You think, wow, I'm signing with this big agency. That's the next big important step. But what you forget is you're way down the ladder.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of big people at that agency that are getting all their attention and all their, you know, and you're just, so sometimes it's better to be at that good, like strong mid-level agency where they're really working for you as opposed to just being, you know, stuck in some big
Hopefully
agency.
you get rid of them.
Yeah. Oh no, that didn't last too long.
Mom came in and said, "You're out. We're taking her somewhere else."
Yeah, I guess like as well as being so young and new to the craft and everything like that, just I guess how they treated me, how they made me feel and everything.
Right.
It really just wasn't worth it. But
Yeah. Well, it's a good learning experience. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you do have to be tough in this business, as you know.
You need to
You have to have some thick skin. Yeah.
really thick skin.
For all you people that want to chase this dream,
Yeah.
you know,
You're
make
gonna
sure you
get
have some thick skin
1,000
because
no's to one yes.
Yes,
So
100%,
you really got to learn
yeah.
how to roll with the punches. But yeah. So after a while, I guess when things weren't starting to happen, I went back, was doing the whole modeling thing again.
Yeah.
And I got cast to go in. It's like it was called The Face. So it's like America's Next Top Model, but the Victoria's Secret models were like casting it, and they were running the show. And
I love how it's different. I love how you have all these like, there's dual culture happening.
right.
You know?
It's like they don't do it the same there as they do it here,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a different dynamic, you know.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's an American show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they flew me over.
The Face. I haven't heard of that one. I've heard of America's Top Model, but not.
Well, it would have been years ago. I'm not sure how many seasons they did. But they flew me over for the final casting process, and we all got thrown. It was like me and 20 other girls, and I think they were narrowing it down to like, I guess the final.
In
12
Los
or something.
Angeles?
In Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
It was
Was that your first time?
Yep. It was literally just my dream. I didn't really like. I didn't want to be in like a reality show or anything like that, but I just wanted to get to LA.
Yeah.
And
get some work.
And it was
get some work out of it, maybe. Yeah,
well,
too. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but this is how I got over here.
Oh, good. Okay. Now we're getting down to it.
Yeah.
So they flew me. I did the final casting process, and it was really strange because there was all these girls in this hotel. We weren't allowed to leave. We could only we had to stay in our rooms unless we were coming down to like go through certain things that they needed us to do with the production.
Right.
And we weren't allowed to speak to each other. Because they wanted it all to be organic, like once they put us in the house and everything.
I would have snuck out. Did you sneak out?
I was a good girl. Tasmanian's angel.
She is the Tasmanian angel, see?
But so the only person I could talk to was the casting director.
Oh, wow.
So we got along.
Well, those are the good connections to make too.
Yeah.
For everybody listening who comes to town to chase the dream, start making connections with casting people and building relationships because those go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. But we got along super well, and I told her how I just came off a show like a year ago, and I really wanted to pursue acting, and that was my dream. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, like my boyfriend's a manager, and he would love you."
Oh.
And
See?
This again, like the
Speaking
stars,
exactly
the
what I
stars
just said,
aligning.
make those connections, and one thing leads to another, right?
I honestly owe her everything, because she snuck her partner and his business partner into the hotel to have a secret meeting with me. Put her job on the line. Like, if she found out, like, I was there for this show,
Right?
and she like
strict rules. No one's to see Jessica Green until we're done with her.
Because they got me out of the show. They were like, "Don't do this.
Oh, that's
Cancel your flight. Get out of this show. Don't do reality. You can come stay with us, and we'll get you an agent. We'll get you a visa. We'll get you signed."
Wow.
And so,
do you still work with them, or
they don't manage anymore? But I just went to their wedding and everything.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Again, like things like this just don't happen.
Well, you know what? It's so funny because Snotty and I talk about manifesting stuff and how you have to be willing to take risks and work hard when you're chasing these dreams like this. You really, you got to bring a work ethic. You got to bring all these things along with you. But when you do take those risks and those, and you show that you're willing to put in the hard work, then stuff does start to connect like that.
It's putting it out into the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talk about pivotal people
that.
will come in at the right time when you're on your path and you're showing the universe that you work hard, you're bringing it, you're doing everything you can, taking risks. Then all of a sudden the universe will put people right in front of you that just change that trajectory. And we talk about this on almost every show.
Yeah.
Someone's got that. So it sounds like they were that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, honestly.
I mean, pulling you out of that show, that's pretty cool, right? Like, hey, no, you don't need to do this.
And
do
I
this.
mean, she was the casting director for it.
Yeah,
You know?
wow.
Like, so for her to do that for me was amazing. And then I went and stayed with them for, I think it was a week and a half. Cause
Oh, wow.
when we were getting dropped off to go back to Australia, because there was going to be like a 3 or 4 week lull between filming.
Hiatus.
Yeah, before we started filming. I got dropped off at the airport and they came and picked me up. And I went and stayed
The production team dropped you off, and then you pretended like you were leaving, and then they pulled around. And that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
That's really cool.
and then I made up an excuse, got out of that, and luckily, because obviously, if I had gone down that road of like reality and stuff, I feel like it would have been a very different road for me. You know.
Yeah.
What was the excuse?
I think I just said I booked a job or something in Australia and I
okay.
couldn't come out anymore. Meanwhile, I was like in the casting director's office.
Oh, they see you at Air One.
Oh my God! Wait till they see this podcast. They'll go, "That Jessica girl."
But they were so amazing. Like they got me set up with an agent. They started my visa process, which is huge.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, that's a big deal.
I know a lot of Australian actors coming over. It's really hard because you have to have work in America to get your visa, but
Or
they
find a
won't
husband.
give you a visa unless they won't give you American work unless you have a visa. So it's this very
It's like
back
a
and
catch-22.
Yeah, it's
for
honestly
sure.
it's so hard,
Yeah.
and for them to help me through that, and I mean that's
That's
how I got
so
started
cool.
in America.
I love those little stories where people come in and kind of
Yeah.
change stuff around and
Oh,
right
I
at the
was
right
so
time.
lucky.
Right, it was a
Absolutely.
key moment, right, in your career. When
So-
you look back on it, you probably go, "Yeah, that was a turning point." You know.
Oh, absolutely. Like I honestly, I don't think I would have ever made it to America. Maybe I feel like it would have been out of maybe out of reach for me, or because I always thought, to be in America for film, like you have to be a big name already.
You have to become somebody first, and then they'll.
and then you can come over.
Yeah.
What did you, before you ever came to America or LA, what was your perception? What did you envision LA being
Yeah, we
like?
always love to hear like what.
Everything I'd seen in TV shows and movies, I thought it was this big glamour. I thought Hollywood Boulevard was this glamorous, beautiful place. And
Everybody's
then you get
driving
dropped off there and you're
Porsches
like,
and-
oh wow.
Like an American Idol, when they say you're going to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you live here and someone tells you to go to Hollywood. You're like, oh, God, I gotta
Yeah.
go to Hollywood.
This is- yeah.
I'm not going to wear my nice shoes.
No, definitely not.
So you did have that fantasy idea of what
Yeah,
Hollywood and LA was.
100%.
Yeah.
Because all I saw was, everything like big movies like Pretty Woman and
Right,
stuff. Like she's
yeah.
walking down like Rodeo Drive. You just think
Well,
it's
Snobby
gonna be
went
that.
through the same thing because you would know this, but he's from a small town in Virginia, which is way in the south of the U.S.
That's where they got married.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you were down there.
Yeah.
We're in Virginia, you know? I'm from like just outside of Richmond.
He's from some small little town, but he can relate to that idea of having this fantasy of what LA is because he used to watch MTV and all the music shows and behind the music, and he had this fantasy idea of what he thought Hollywood and LA was till he got here. So yeah.
Yeah.
Like I knew nothing. Like I didn't even know there was beaches.
Oh, you didn't know there was.
I mean, I just knew like the Sunset Strip and the rainbow and the whiskey and all those like stories, those rock and roll stories.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured California, there's beaches, but I didn't know like, I thought Santa Monica was like way over here, LA's somewhere over here, Venice. Like, I didn't realize it was kind of just one big place with a bunch of little places.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I definitely had the perception that it was just all this glamour, and then you get here and. No, it's just another city, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the weather's
I mean,
great.
honestly, there can be that glamorous part, especially now
Yeah.
that you're making your way in the business. Now you're seeing the more glamorous part of it. I'm sure some of it, right?
We're getting there.
A
yeah,
little
little
bit.
bits. I'm getting glimpses.
I know.
So do you remember the feeling of like landing in LAX for the first time?
Oh yeah, honestly, I was so excited.
Yeah.
That's why when that show offered me like a free plane ticket to get to LA, I was like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Like that was
Absolutely.
enough.
Yeah,
That's the dream
I
come
honestly,
true
that's all
right
I
there,
wanted
right?
I just wanted to get to LA and see it, you know?
The dream has come true at that
Yeah.
point, right? You're in LA, you're landing on a plane. That's the
Yep.
dream right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely got that little special feeling. But
So cool.
yeah, then when I started coming out for a few months at a time for like pilot season and everything, like I was telling you guys before, it took me a while to like it, because I feel like LA, it's such a big place, and when you come here and you know no one.
It can be very isolated for sure.
Absolutely.
And polarizing because we talked about it precast. We had a little conversation about the fact that people either really love it and they get it right away, or they feel really alien and they feel like, like get me out of here.
Well,
LA
also,
can be like that, you know.
I feel like
It weeds
definitely
people out. Yeah.
Yeah.
and it definitely helps. Like I was in Studio City, but I didn't have a car. I used to catch the bus and the subway.
Oh
Oh
wow.
my God.
I don't think I've ever met anyone else.
Isn't that kind of fun though?
Yeah, it has its
It's
days.
a little sketchy, I would
Definitely
think.
sketchy, especially at nighttime.
Oh god. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw some.
Especially beautiful Jessica Green on the
Hopefully,
sketchy
yeah,
subway at
hood
night.
up and,
Yeah,
like,
Literally, that's what I used to do. I used to
Yeah.
like put my bag inside
yeah,
my
just
car
kind of
know,
and
like
just
bring it
yeah.
down for sure.
That's when I first moved to LA. I lived downtown, so like central to all the buses and stuff. And I was lucky enough to have a car, but I learned the city by I like to explore, so I'd do like urban exploring. I'd hop on the random bus and just see where it took me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I miss those days so much when you're so green, you know, and just like you don't know anything, just looking out the window, watching the weirdos on the bus interact.
Yeah.
It's
No, it's got some good people watching for sure.
It's
I
good,
definitely
though.
saw some things.
What was the weirdest thing you saw?
I don't even know if I can say on
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
podcast.
Does she want to relive that? I don't know.
No, I saw something horrible.
Oh no.
Yeah. No, and yeah, growth.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave the audience with that.
Now I'm interested.
I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you after the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that fascinated me about you is because we talked about the martial arts, which has really worked in your favor.
Oh, 100%.
And
yeah.
in my opinion, is going to work even more in your favor, but we'll get to that later. But how did that come about where you decided, hey, I kind of like learning how to be a badass too? Because, I was watching some clips from Outpost.
Well, that's why.
And that whole show.
That's how she could ride the bus.
Right.
She had the skills.
Right. And for a lot of you listeners out there that may not know, but I think everybody should know by now, you starred in your own show on the CW called The Outpost. And what was your character's name again? I forget.
Talon.
Talon, that's right. Because I was looking and it said Talon fights season 2, Talon fights season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at all your fights and I'm like, wow, you were kicking ass on that show. But obviously you started somewhere prior to getting that role. And I think that's probably, I think you said, you intimated that that's what helped you get the role, is that you did have those skill set for martial arts and all that. How did you get into the martial arts? That's so fascinating to me that you...
I just got bored at the gym. Yeah. And so I started going to this MMA gym and doing classes, just boxing classes.
And this was on the Gold Coast in Australia?
Yeah, at Heartbreak Conditioning.
Oh, good.
I hear they actually make
Get in
you...
there.
They actually make you have to fight a kangaroo.
Oh, damn. Which,
that's the boxing
That's
class.
a challenge.
You know what? I've actually seen 2 kangaroos full on fighting.
It's
like, it happens.
They have technique too. It's interesting. You look at them and you think they're trained boxers. I've seen some of those viral videos.
But yeah, no, I started just doing it for fitness, and I'm very competitive, and I found it was a good way to, you know, really push myself. And I grew up in, like, when I went to high school, I got a scholarship for track and field. So I had to run every day 2 hours before school. Right. And then throughout school, I had
It's a discipline for sure, track and field. Like.
And so that really killed my, it killed, I hate running and everything.
Yeah, you're like, I never want to do that again as long as I...
No, I hated it. So when I found boxing, I was like, oh, wow, this is cardio I actually enjoy.
Yeah, right. It's fun.
And I'll keep pushing myself instead of just being like, oh, I'll run to that next pole.
Right.
And I can walk, you know?
Yeah.
And then then I started doing Muay Thai and then Jiu Jitsu. And I just started to love it because it's fun. Like you're getting your exercise you need out of it. And yeah.
And was that all before you came to LA, or is that some of your subsequent trips back to Australia and then you started getting into?
Yeah, because I mean, at the very beginning, I would only come out for two months a year.
Yeah, just for the pilot season.
Yeah. So it was just in between. I started getting into that, and when I was in the audition process for The Outpost, I read that my role had like, if you could do martial arts, that was a plus, and so I got in the gym and
wow. Let's talk about that audition process, because I think listeners find that really fascinating, that kind of the inside of how that goes down. Yeah. Obviously your agent calls you and says, hey, we have this this role that you could be right for. And then you read the breakdown and it says martial arts could be helpful.
Yeah. And then it was just self-tape for me. So I just
went I mean, they're doing that so much more. Like back when I was doing the acting and commercials and voiceovers, it was,
I feel like
you had to go into the casting office all the time.
Yeah. That's when I first started, that's what would happen, but it's pretty much only self-tapes now.
Yeah. The pandemic, I think, changed that whole paradigm for good now.
And it's good and bad. It has its perks. Like I love self-taping now, just because you can do it whenever. Like
that's true.
In your home where you feel safe with a reader that you feel good with, because especially when you're first starting out,
and you can do a second take.
Absolutely.
That's what I like about it. Because when you go into the casting director and then they tell you the little breakdown and then they go, okay, go. You have that one shot to do it.
Yeah.
And it's either good or bad. With the self, at home thing, you can go, oh, that wasn't quite it. Let me do it again real quick.
Yeah. And especially like when you're first starting out, going in the room can be so nerve-wracking. And sometimes you get an amazing casting director who's really like welcoming and
engaging
helpful and engaging, and then you can walk into the
and actually
room.
During the read gives you something to work with, because a lot of them just like and the characters
yeah 100%. And then you can go into rooms where they've probably had 100 people in already for that day,
and they're burnt out
and they can't be bothered speaking to you. And so obviously when you walk in and it's not a welcoming room, then you start getting nervous, and you start like, if you fumble on a word, then you get in your head.
Oh,
and
yeah,
like,
totally.
So I really love the self-taping process, more so than going in the room. But
so on Outpost, you did a self-tape of your fights. Was it a fight scene, or did they give you a side of just scene of the show? Or
I put down 2 scenes for the audition, and then when I found out that they were interested and I like was in
callbacks,
yeah,
maybe or
I think they narrowed it down
being brought
to
back in or narrowed
15,
down
20
or
girls. And so I just started to think like, what can get me, through the next door. But because they didn't request any footage of fighting or anything.
Okay.
And I just got in the gym and started filming it, cut it together, sent it off.
Wow.
Oh,
And
that's
they really
a
liked
good
it.
move.
Yeah.
See,
really
people
liked
be
it.
proactive when you're chasing your dream because that pays off too.
100%.
Don't wait for people to ask you.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
was just trying to give them anything that I could to show that I could do this role, and
That's a move right
Yeah.
there. I like it. That's a badass move. That's
you.
yeah, for sure.
In that show, did you do your own stunts?
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I love doing my own stunts.
Oh, cool.
And then as I got down to, I think I was the final 3, and I knew I was close. It's like a sci-fi medieval show, so there was a lot of sword fighting. So I went out, got a stunt coordinator. I tracked down, and he taught me how to do
He choreographed you through a little
and
sword
gave me
scene or
some
whatever.
weapons training and everything. So I quickly filmed that, sent that off to just anything.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
could just,
keep greasing the wheel.
Yeah,
That's right.
like, get me.
Oh,
like,
that's
in
so
front of those
cool.
Other 2 girls, and then
Tell us
finally
how
got the
that
call.
feels, because a lot of people haven't been there. We have, when you get that phone call. On our first podcast, we talk about how Snotty chased his dream to play Coachella, and everybody in the world wants to play Coachella,
Oh,
but
yeah,
very few people
100%.
will.
Yeah.
And then one day he gets the phone call.
Yeah.
You're playing Coachella. So tell us what that felt like, when you get the call and they're like,
The best feeling in the world.
right?
Yeah.
Honestly, and that was like a huge break for me. Huge break.
Was it something, because I know sometimes when I was doing that, you'd wait 2 weeks and you wouldn't hear it and you'd think, oh, I didn't get it.
Oh no, this was like 2 months.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
so it wasn't-
the
Yeah.
longest 2 months of your life.
Yeah.
And you're
you just
thinking, I
forget
didn't get it.
Yeah,
and
you just
damn
forget
it.
about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But especially like everything I'd done had been like in Australia or New Zealand, and this was my first, if I got it, my first big break into the American scene on an
Yes.
American show.
In LA, in Hollywood.
And it gives you, like, it could be life changing. You never know. And
definitely-
as well the lead of a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I got that phone call, I was with my mom in my kitchen, and
You were in Australia?
in
Yeah.
Australia.
And you're just hanging out with mom, and
Yeah.
then all of a
Oh,
sudden,
wow.
phone rings.
We need you back.
Literally the best feeling in the world, and we cried and we popped some champagne after.
Yeah,
and
it's so good.
like all the hard work finally paid off,
That's
and it
so
takes time.
cool.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really does. It's
Well-
acting. This industry is, you really got to grind.
It is. And, chasing the dream isn't easy. And we say that all the time, and that's why we talk about, you have to have, because
Well,
I think,
if
go
it
ahead.
was easy, everyone would do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But,
also, yeah.
As we're talking about manifesting, you're putting it out there. You're learning how to sword fight, and the universe brought it back to you.
And you're going the extra mile. You're
Exactly.
finding your own stunt coordinator, not waiting for somebody to, say, hey,
Yeah.
we need a fight scene from you.
It's not sitting around thinking like, okay,
Right.
I'm trying to attract this. You need to put the energy out there.
Well, also because it is
Back.
a competition. And you got to remember that. You're competing against a lot of different people when you're chasing your dreams.
And especially because that role was so physical. Like
Yeah.
I fought in every episode.
I was watching some of those episodes. Well, I was watching some of the reels too of the just your fight scene. I was like, damn, that's really,
So
it's a lot of work.
especially for that role, it did make a huge difference.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of roles where if there's like a fight scene here and there, they just get, as long as you can kind of get into the movement.
Right. You could get a stunt coordinator.
Exactly. They'll get a stunt double
Yeah.
to do it all. And I mean, I did have a stunt double, but she would only do the things that
Super dangerous where the
they wouldn't
producers
let me
went,
do.
don't
Like, yeah.
let her do that. Yeah. She's our lead. We can't
Yeah.
get her injured.
I would love to do it though, but
I'm
yeah.
sure you would.
But
Someday you'll be there like Tom Cruise, where they let him do all this crazy stuff because he's been doing it that long and he's that good at it that they'll let him get away with. And he's
I
Tom
know.
Cruise too, but
yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're anyone but Tom Cruise,
that's true. They go,
like,
no.
because didn't he broke his ankle doing?
Oh
one of the
yeah,
stunts.
and it cost them
And it-
millions and
yeah.
shutting down that Mission Impossible.
Anyone else,
Yeah.
they would kind of just recast.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But hopefully one day I get there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be
no.
nice.
Oh no, you're gonna get there.
No.
It's so funny because I was watching an interview that you did, and it speaks to what Snotty likes to talk about on the show a lot with chasing your dreams and going after what you want in your life, and really manifesting stuff and making dreams come true. And how do you do that? And so part of the idea of this podcast is like just to give people insight into people's experience of how they've made that happen.
Yeah.
But you said something really cool, and it was with respect. It was an interview about the Outpost, and I was watching it. You're a really good interview. You're really good on camera. You're very natural. People really like you a lot. I can tell because I was watching a couple. But one, you said, I got thrown into the deep end on that show with the martial arts, and it was a lot. But that's the best thing because it makes you have that drive to sink or swim. And we talk about that all the time. It's not always going to be like, hey, I got the role and then now, I'm there. You still got to keep growing and evolving once you're there.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I thought that was pretty cool when you said, hey, I got thrown into the deep end on that show because that was a lot of, I was a martial artist. I knew what I was doing, but it was a nonstop show of me fighting, constant choreography, constantly shooting these really intense fight scenes. But it made, it gave you that idea. Well, it's either sink or swim now. I gotta make this happen now.
Yeah.
You do.
And you did. It was a very successful show. You had a good run.
Thank
How many
you.
seasons? 5 seasons? 4 or 5?
We've done 4 seasons.
Yeah, okay.
There's still a possibility of a 5th.
Okay.
We're still waiting to hear. So it's not ruled out.
Hey,
but yeah.
once you get past 1 and 2, that's a hit nowadays, right?
Yeah,
Honestly.
no, honestly, we've been really lucky, and that show, it's been like the best 4 years of my life. Like the cast and the crew and the producers, they're like a family to me. And the cast, we were so close. Honestly, we've lived together, we've traveled together.
Yeah, you guys shot a lot on location. I heard one of the seasons you guys went to Serbia or somewhere really exotic.
The last 3 we've been in Serbia.
That is so cool.
So
I've never been, but I heard it's a really beautiful.
I love it.
Incredible.
I never
country.
thought I'd be going to Serbia. It's not one of the places that you kind of have.
Well,
at
it
the top of
definitely
your
gives that
bucket list,
ancient look
but-
to the show too.
Oh, 100%.
Shooting in locations like that, that
And it's,
medieval.
Belgrade's such an amazing city. Honestly, I don't think many people realize that. And so if you're ever in Europe, definitely check it out because
We're just adding places to our bucket list
Yeah.
right now.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
it's awesome. And the food, the people, everything. It's really
Amazing.
cool. And the history there, like they've had a really hard history. So just like walking around the city and learning about that was really cool.
Wow.
as
And
well.
I know from my own personal experiences in acting and getting little shows, nothing as grandiose as what you're going through, which is, but that was always my funnest part of the whole thing was being on location somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
When
yeah.
they'd fly you off somewhere to shoot on
Yeah.
location, to me that was
It
always
feels
the
like you're
funnest
doing something cool.
Yeah,
you know,
you're
like,
traveling. You're
you really
getting to see the
taking
world,
experience.
Yeah.
going somewhere new, somewhere different.
And I mean, we started off as an independent show.
Yeah.
The Outpost did, and we did our first season in Utah. And we started out so small. We had the town set up in the back lot of this little studio.
Oh wow.
And so we went from that. Then CW came on board, and we went from there to Serbia, and we went from filming in the back lot in the car park with all these little plastic castles and everything
Right.
to real castles
In Serbia,
Europe.
Yeah.
on
like-
the grand
Wow.
hillsides of
yeah,
yeah.
and
Oh,
it
that's
was
so cool.
So that was really cool to see like the growth as well.
Well, and what a great training ground. Exactly. You're speaking to that right now.
Yeah.
Because you really grow as an actor, when you get, to do those kind of extended shows, where you get more than the one season to,
100%.
each
It's the
season
best-
you're
it's the
really
best
growing
training,
exponentially
honestly.
and your craft is getting that much better. And
On set every day,
Yeah.
learning, putting it to practice. And
yeah.
Do you get a lot of recognition just out and about from being on that show?
In Europe,
Really?
yeah, not so much here in the US. I get stopped every now and then,
Uh-huh.
but in Europe, like in France and everything, it's got massive followings over there.
What was it like the first time someone go, "Oh, hey. It's
Oh,
you."
it's such a weird
Yeah,
feeling.
right?
Such a
And
weird
so-
feeling. I got it a tiny bit with Lightning Point, which was
Oh, yeah.
surprising. Like, but girls would stop me on the street and everything like that.
Yeah, because you're like a hero to.
Yeah,
them, you know?
and it's
Especially
I
being
feel
like
like
a
you don't get
badass
used to
chick.
it though.
Uh-huh.
It's strange.
Yeah.
It's like I had this girl in Serbia actually come up and she started crying on the street in front of me.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh,
It just shows you how big that dream is, though, and that it's everyone's dream.
Well,
It's a universal
Yeah.
dream,
It's
honestly,
bigger
right?
than who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
You know, like she has an emotional connection to you.
yeah.
to your
I mean,
character,
I didn't
you know?
think you would experience that until
Right.
you were like,
And also
you
the
know,
idea of
Brad
who
Pitt
she
or
thought you
someone,
were.
but-
You know, she thinks you're this. Oh my God, this unattainable thing. You know, that could never be.
yeah, but I was just walking to the gym.
Yeah, like,
I was like, I'm just like you.
and there you are.
But yeah, it's a strange feeling. But yeah.
You're like, oh, I was just on the bus in LA.
I literally.
I was just on the subway with a bunch of sketchy. Yeah,
Hold my breath.
no, it's good.
Well,
I also heard that you're in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. Is that true?
Oh my gosh, no, that's on my IMDb. I'm literally an extra.
oh really?
Yes.
But let's talk about the one that you were in. Was the biggest film production they ever did in Australia up to that point. I don't know if you knew that. I did some research on that. The Dead Man Tells No Tales.
That was huge, and that was one of the best days like of learning that I've ever had. I got to sit. You would never recognize me. I'm in the scene where it's the whale carcass, and Jack Sparrow is getting married to that horrible lady.
Right.
And I've got like, they put missing teeth on me and like yellow and scabies all over my
lovely.
face. Yeah, I look
wow.
horrible.
You look like you ride the bus in LA.
literally.
Yeah.
But I got to sit front row and watch Johnny Depp do his thing.
Amazing.
Right.
And Jeffrey Rush. That was
Well, and talk about an Australian legend, like an acting god.
yeah.
Right,
But-
Jeffrey Rush.
but
That
just-
guy's so incredible. He's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But getting to see them do what they do best.
What an
And it was-
inspiration for you to continue to push
Oh,
for that dream that you were chasing, right?
and it was amazing how every scene was just completely different. Every take.
Right.
Which I haven't seen like a lot of actors, do and do really well. But I mean, that's why he's Johnny Depp, isn't it?
Yeah,
like everything he did.
And
was
that's
like,
why they're probably going to bring him back for another one because I can't imagine until Johnny Depp is not here anymore, who else is going to play that role
No
that the
one else
world
can
will
play
love
him.
the way they
No
love Johnny
one.
Depp in that role? Nobody.
Yeah.
So get over all the whatever and just get him in there because it'll be good again.
Yeah, honestly, he's marvelous.
Well, one of the cool things about the podcast is we always try to catch people at different levels in their pursuit of the dream. And I think right now is a very exciting time for you.
Thank
Yeah.
You
you.
want to speak to that?
Yeah, we were
So
talking
fun.
about the fact that we feel like we're really catching you, like on like just before the rocket takes off, because we're going to talk about your new film, Air, which we alluded to in the opening, which just premiered at South by Southwest a week ago, I think, and came out of there with hands down glowing rave reviews. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes out of the gate, and it hasn't been released yet.
How
And
do you feel right now?
I mean, but hang on, I want to pull you up because I'm such a microscopic small role in it.
right,
But
don't tell me you only have one line.
no,
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, and
No,
don't sell yourself short.
I only have a few. So I play Phil Knight's secretary, Katrina Saints.
Right.
Okay.
And so
Well, at least you're not secretary number one or.
no,
Yeah, at
You
least
have a
you
name.
actually have a name.
yeah, but honestly, I'm such a small role in that. But to be a part of that cast and to be like on set with the greats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was
And
really
by the way,
lucky,
somebody
like,
once famously said, there are no small roles. There are only small actors.
Yeah.
So, as Snotty said, don't be so self-deprecating because it's a big deal.
yeah,
And I don't
mean,
care if you only had one line to
She's
be in
very
that
humble.
movie.
She's modest.
No,
Yes,
I'm,
yes.
honestly, it's really small. But I got to. They filmed the whole film in 23 days, and I was on set for 6 of them.
Was that on by design?
Yeah, they
Like Michael Jordan, 23.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
they just they.
Wow, I didn't even
flew
think
through it.
about that. That's cool.
Good thing he wasn't number 8.
I know, right? I was like, oh, we only got like 4 more days.
Yeah.
And I got to be on set and just like obviously watch Matt and Ben do their thing. And
Wow. Oh, yeah, we're talking Oscar-winning actors. Viola Davis is in it. I don't know that you worked with her, but she's
no, I
in it.
didn't, But
But the film is loaded with Oscar-winning actors, an Oscar-winning director, and is now really being called one of the best films of the year so far.
yeah, I went to a screening the other day, and it's honestly it's amazing.
I heard it's
wow.
just the energy. One of the reviews I read on it, it's like this. It's just like got this kinetic energy that just runs all the way through the movie and just keeps you going.
Have you heard about the story? I mean,
Oh yes, I do
how
know
they
the story,
signed
but
him and
you can tell our
everything?
audience a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea, but yeah, Michael Jordan didn't want anything to do with Nike.
Yeah.
I had no idea that they
Well,
were
also
the
we're talking the-
seventh biggest shoe brand, like
Right, yeah.
Converse
And we're
Adidas
talking the
was
mid 80s too,
yeah.
when Nike was a struggling shoe company at the time.
Can't even
Converse
imagine it
was
now.
kind of the
Yeah.
like
Top dogs,
athletic
yeah.
top dog, that everybody wanted to wear.
Reebok,
Yeah.
Adidas.
And then Matt Damon's character, what's the name of his character?
Sonny Vaccaro.
Sonny Vaccaro. He talked them into doing this deal with this unknown who Michael never even played his first NBA game yet.
He's a rookie. Yeah.
Yeah. And they went for it, and it ended up being one of the greatest moments in sports history.
Yeah. And they have made a lot of money from that shoe.
Yeah. So it's going to be great. But,
Yeah.
all these little things lead to really big things. So
Oh, absolutely.
It's- I
was
think it's
saying
a
to you
really
before,
great-
lily pads, I call it.
it's
So,
a great, cool thing.
stepping
that's-
stones to
Lily
getting
pads.
to where I want to be.
And also, you know what? In the business, if I'm a casting director and they go, oh, she was just in Air, I don't go, oh, how many lines does she have? Oh, she was in Air, bring her in. You know what I mean? So that it helps
Yeah.
that way
Honestly,
as well.
and all my scenes were with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and then being directed by Ben. I just was sitting there pinching myself. being
Right.
Like,
Katrina. Yeah, right.
Are you kidding?
Katrina Sains.
She was a real person.
I'm not sure if that's the exact name of
Okay.
his
'Cause I was wondering
original
if you, like,
secretary, but
If you met her.
no,
Yeah.
no.
If there's some
The
kind of
role wasn't big
resemblance.
enough to where you
Yeah.
had to meet her and do some research on her or anything.
No. I'm literally. You'll see me bringing people into Phil's office.
But you
and
know what?
Like, talking.
We'll see you, and that's the cool thing.
Right.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, and the other thing, as we wrap it up, we like to help people manifest. So we just put stuff out there for them sometimes.
Oh yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to put this
Come
out
on,
there
give
for
it to
you
me.
because I feel like Jessica Green, with everything she's done, and then also being a badass in martial arts, you've really set yourself up to be like in the Marvel universe. Hey, let's reboot. What was the one that Angelina Jolie did, where she was action?
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
When they reboot Tomb Raider, why not Jessica
Oh
Green?
my God!
Right?
I would
Yeah.
love
I really
that.
feel like you're in a really
Yeah.
cool position right now. Also because those films are really the biggest films in the world now. Is everything Marvel, everything DC, everything action.
And
That's what's really drives the film business now in theaters anyway. Nobody even goes unless it's some big action film. So I think you've set yourself up pretty amazingly in a sweet spot to where you've chased your dream. You've got your acting chops like way up there. You just did this movie with Oscar-winning director Ben Affleck. And now, going forward, I could see her being in one of the Star Wars films. So we're just going to put a little bit of that out there for you.
Like
Anybody
that.
who's
I'm on
listening,
I'm on the
check
little
out Jessica.
Manifestation. I got.
Oh, I love it.
Manifesting as well,
Wow,
Matt. So
love it.
hopefully,
Is that Wonder
Yeah.
Woman?
it's Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's put Wonder Woman on that list too.
That's your vision board. So you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about
So-
You get it.
manifesting. I think it's really powerful, and I think you really do need to believe it.
So there's a little Australian girl looking up to you. What advice do you have for her?
To just do it.
Just to, hey.
Yay!
Just do it, Nike. Hey,
Yeah.
what
Honestly-
a perfect segue.
Yeah. Well,
But-
thank you so
But
much
keep
for.
pushing, honestly. because eventually you'll get there.
Yeah.
Lily pads.
Lily pads.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today and hanging out.
Yeah, no, we were really excited to come in and do this with you, and I really feel like, this movie is gonna, attract some attention for you, even though there's just a little spot in there. But
Hey, I have because it's such a male-driven film. I have the second most amount of words.
There we go.
Viola Davis. So there you go for females. So.
And then, is there anything that you're working on now that we can talk about? That
no,
anything you're up for, or anything?
I'm just auditioning at the moment, but I have another movie called Sparkle that's just about to come out for Lionsgate. So.
Oh, exciting!
Okay, tell us a little bit about that quickly.
I can't say too much, but it's just like a nice, cute family kids movie.
Okay, good.
Nice feel good one that will be perfect.
222. What a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on, Jessica Green.
Thank you so
international film and television actress. We've had a really good time with you, and
amazing.
Actually, we met through Josh. He knows Josh really well. So we met through a good mutual friend, and we were all hanging out. And I said, "You need to come on the podcast." So thank you for coming on. It's been really fun having you.
Thank you.
And much success and good luck to you going forward.
Appreciate it.
Once again, this is the ReveLAtions podcast.
Keep listening.
More episodes to come. Awesome. We're out.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
You are so welcome. And so, what's going to go on now? Are you in LA for the most part now, or?
I just got back, so I've been in Australia for the last 3 months.
Okay.
But I got back 2 weeks ago.
So you're going to be here for a while? Or, okay, cool.